The $100,000 XRP call, it just dropped. And before you laugh, stick around because the recent receipts behind this one, they're absolutely wild. This isn't hopium. This is what happens when we see real world money, when it starts to bleed on chain. You think Bitcoin's run was big? Well, XRP, it's about to rewrite the rules. And let's start with it right here. Jake comes out. He makes the prediction. We're going to rip this band-aid off. Jake's just called it 50 to a $100,000 XRP by 2030. That's about what, 4 years away? Sounds insane, right? But here's the logic according to Jake. At that point, 80 to 85% of all real world assets are expected to be tokenized. I mean, think about it. Think about how big these markets are. You're talking about stocks, bonds, real estate, even debt you're talking about, all get tokenized. And if it's all running on the XRP ledger, well, XRP, price of XRP right now at $2, it's not gonna cut it. But here's the kicker out of all this, and we're gonna play this clip in a second. When those assets move on chain, they need a settlement layer, right? We know Bitcoin doesn't work, ETH doesn't work, Solana, network's always down, it doesn't work. But the XRP ledger and XRP, it is built exactly for this moment. We're talking about instant. We're talking about scalability. We're talking about being compliant. And if you think that's hype, I want you to remember this though. Now, Bitcoin used to be $1. It's now over 100,000. And it took 15 years for Bitcoin to hit a $1 trillion market cap with no utility. That's the craziest part. No utility at all, just a store of value, competing against gold, I guess we can say, right? But XRP, it is plugged directly into the bloodstream of global finance. A big difference. So yeah,
the
look,
5-year conservative price prediction.
Moonshot, right? It's a monetary migration is what we would see at this point. Let's listen to this clip.
The 5-year conservative price prediction for XRP. Well, that's 2030. At that point, 80 to 85% of all real world assets will be tokenized on chain is my conservative estimate. It could be more. And if that's the case, you're looking at easily a $50 to $100,000 XRP with derivatives. I know that sounds crazy. You can call me whatever you want. I've watched Bitcoin go from what it was 15 years ago to what it is today. And I think XRP will move at a much faster pace than that.
There you go. So Jake said it, but let's get into this now, right? So we know the 5-year price prediction here and what has to happen and what needs to come over to the XRP.
Today's cameras don't
talk about the next narrative, right? Current date. It's 2025. What is our current narrative? What is going to push up the price of XRP? It's very simple because your next narratives, it's ETFs, and we're talking spot ETFs. And what we're seeing now is that these companies are going around the SEC, obviously because the government is shut. We don't know when they're going to reopen. These companies do not want to wait any longer to get these ETFs up and running. So what are they doing? They're coming out there. They're dropping an 8A filing. Pretty much this means from the filing date to 20 days after that, the ETF will automatically be approved unless for some crazy reason the SEC steps in and they say, we're not going to approve it. So 21 share. Next up, the 20-day clock, it is officially ticking. It's almost like the NFL draft, right? When like next up on the board, they announce the team and then the timer starts. This is the same thing. These companies are coming up to the stage. They're making their announcement. The timer is going. SEC says yay, or they can't say yay. They actually just say nay, right? Because the yay is just, I'm not saying anything. And if the shutdown and not working, well, they're not going to say anything. That is how we got your HBAR, your Solana, and your Litecoin ETFs, right? So your clock is ticking here. And we've seen this movie before because the second that Bitcoin ETFs hit the wire, what happened? Billions of dollars flooded in. Now imagine the same institutional floodgate opening for XRP, but with a smaller float, faster tech, and a global settlement utility narrative behind it. This ETF isn't just another product. This is going to be the largest ETF out there, by the way. It's going to trump what Bitcoin did and what Solana is doing right now. This is the signal that your institutions are ready to finally play ball. That liquidity flood we have been talking about for the past couple of years, it is finally coming. And this time you are in before it happens, which moves us over to this because now Wisdom Tree, they got a little power play cooking themselves. They filed for a CoinDesk 20 ETF. What is this? This is your top 20 global assets by market cap. And yes, of course, XRP is included in this. This is huge because what are we seeing now? This is the next phase. So we're going from single currency ETFs, and now we're going to baskets of ETFs. We've seen a basket of 10. Now we're going to see a basket of 20. We've seen a basket of 5 as well. I believe Grayscale did the top 5. So the next phase of the market is about crypto indexing, baskets of digital assets that trade like traditional funds. That is how Wall Street scales its exposure. They don't YOLO into coins like me and you do. They index them. It's that simple. And when XRP gets locked to those ETFs, that's not speculation. That is demand. It's passive, it's consistent, and it definitely is relentless. The same thing that drove, if you remember, Apple and Tesla to its multi-trillion-dollar valuations. That same thing is happening here. Now, we already had known about 24 different XRP ETFs. This is a different one because now XRP is going to be into a basket. We're going to see a lot of these baskets coming to life. Crypto.com actually offers something pretty cool. It's a basket, but it auto rebounces itself. You don't have to do anything. What that auto rebouncing means, so say the price of XRP runs up, it will sell off, it will buy into the assets that you were down on, and it will try to balance everything back out for you. Pretty interesting what they're doing over there. But that's what we're seeing. But we're not done here because now we got Canary hinting that their XRP ETF is coming. Look, if you thought that 21 shares here wasn't enough, Canary just came out and said, hey, we got a spot XRP ETF and it could be coming as soon as next week. Yes, next week, everyone. If that drops, the game over for denial of people here, right? Everyone's been out there fighting, oh, we're never going to see an XRP ETF. They're not going to do it. The SEC won't let it go through. Well, get ready because that freaking countdown is on. I'm ready for it. So when this drops, it's game over for denial. But XRP isn't regulated, right? That crowd, wave them goodbye because they're going to disappear overnight. Once this approval hits, every compliance department in America, they get the green light. We're talking about price discovery on steroids. We're talking about liquidity flood coming in. We're talking about the market cap is going to melt up, an XRP sitting under $3, sitting under $2.50, sitting in the dollar range. Well, looks to me like the biggest mispriced event in crypto history is about to come to the end. And then we get this clip. Former eToro US CEO Lou Damazzi. They said it perfectly. Digital assets are the first asset class in history that the regulated person can enter before the institutions. Now, before I play this clip for you, I've talked about this narrative. You've heard this if you've been around this channel long enough. This is the first time in history we are able to say that we have beat the institutions in and that we are in before the institutions. This will never happen again as long as me and you are alive. We are being given this golden opportunity. And that's why the markets are so shaky and so volatile, because we are in before the big money. If you can handle it, then guess what? You can go sit in the sidelines. You can wait for the big money to enter. You can wait for them to jack the price up, and then you can enter the market. We are here before the institutions, folks. Let that sink in. Listen to this.
Value, right? So what's interesting about digital assets, you have to remember, is it's the first asset class in history in which the regular person entered before institutions did. That's why everybody's up in arms, right? Regular people, this was a retail individual person phenomenon before it became a Wall Street phenomenon. It's one of the first asset classes. I challenge you to find another asset class. So it totally upended the idea of what power looks like, what power structure looks like, how technology works. And so I don't want to lose that wisdom. That wisdom was really valuable, regardless of normalizing regulations, ingesting and digesting the sort of the bad actor issues. We should not lose that wisdom that access to technology to a broad set of people is the way that you mitigate the evils that could reside in it.
Think about that. You're not late. You're early. We'll never be able to say that again. This is absolutely massive. Every ETF, every single filing, every headline that we just talked about, it is all validation. But you were right. You were in before the suits, before the boardrooms, before the Bloomberg headlines. This moment right now, this is your edge. And the rotation, it's already started. Then back to this. Jake's going to tell you about the rotation. Listen.
Why do you expect a rotation into XRP ETFs before BTC shows any signs of systemic risk? So in the past, if you watch previous crypto cycles, we always have a drop in Bitcoin dominance where there's a rotation into the altcoin. And that mechanism could easily be orchestrated with the ETFs now that we're going to have a standardized way for these ETFs to be launched. So if they withdraw all of these current ETF filings, which is what the SEC has asked people to do, other people people will, once they've announced the standard for which they're going to allow spot ETFs for a single asset to have to meet in order to get immediate approval, I think you're going to see BlackRock, Vanguard, both of them, I think, are going to throw their hat in the ring for XRP ETFs immediately following that standard being put out. And then you're going to see the rotation. People in ETFs are not here to hold Bitcoin. They're not believers in this asset class. They're here for gains. And if Bitcoin is no longer producing gains and something else is, they will chase the gains. FOMO, my man. And I do believe.
So look, we saw this back in 2017 when profits from Bitcoin flowed into altcoins. It happened in 2020. It happens every cycle, right? But now the rotation, it's going to happen, but it's going to be a lot smarter. What do I mean by that? It's simple. Institutions made their Bitcoin play. Next come utility. It comes your settlement layers, real world asset rails. That is where XRP thrives. That is XRP's domain. Bitcoin proved that crypto worked, and that is what we needed. XRP is about to prove that it actually runs the system. The ETFs, it's going to accelerate that rotation. Watch for capital flowing out of static Bitcoin exposure and into networks that move smart money, which brings us to Chad's point right here. This is bigger than all the money. We're talking about tokenized debt, right? And all the debt, it's going to be tokenized. I mean, we're talking anywhere from bonds, loans, derivatives, trillions upon trillions of dollars. And ask yourself, who is building those rails? MasterCard, right? On what ledger? The XRP ledger. This isn't speculation, folks. It's infrastructure. The XRP ledger was literally designed for this kind of settlement. Fast, idle, and programmable. The world's biggest market, debt, that is all going to be moving on chain. And the protocol sitting at the center of it all is XRP ledger. That's how you go from like, a $2 to $3 XRP all the way up to a 5-figure XRP. It's not magic. It is mechanics. And in Crypto Insight, he wants to show you the XRP dominance chart. As you can see, look back here, you can see how curled up we were. Coiled is the word everyone likes to use around here. And then we broke out. We're seeing the same exact thing. The RSI is curling up. The volume is starting to build, and it is sitting on the edge of a breakout zone. The setup screams accumulation. And when that breakout hits, it's not going to be a small candle. Look what it did last time. It's going to be a move that flips sentiment across the entire market. Every time XRP dominance breaks a downtrend, history repeats itself. And what does that mean? It means that the markets wake up. So here's the play, folks. ETFs are coming. Real world assets are tokenizing. And XRP's tech, it's finally being recognized for what it is. Financial infrastructure for the digital age. We're standing in front of the same kind of shift that Bitcoin had back in 2013, except this time the rails are actually ready. The liquidity's legal and you're already in position. So buckle up, because these next few weeks, it could change everything. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see all y'all on the next one.